Secrets of Power Negotiating by Roger Dawson. Be a reluctant buyer or seller. This is a great way to begin any deal. When you play up your reluctance, you can immediately slide the negotiation range in your favor before you've even brought any numbers into it or any real negotiation. Straight out the gates, you've set yourself up to have an advantage. Let's go over a quick and I guess dramatic example. Let's say you have this boat and you absolutely hate this thing. You're always sitting there scrubbing it and everybody else is hanging out on the beach and having fun. And out of nowhere, some guy comes to you and says, "That's a lovely boat and I would love to buy it off of you." You are ecstatic. You want to get rid of this thing tomorrow. And if you drop to your knees and start thanking God for answering all your prayers, well, he might not want to do business with you at all, but if he does, you might be lucky if he even offers you a quarter of what you actually want for that boat. This is what we should do. Say something like, "I'm not too sure I can part with this boat. It's such a great boat. I was thinking of giving it to my son one day, but in fairness to you, what's the very best offer you can make me?" So by playing it cool like that, you can bet that upfront offer is going to be much higher than if you weren't being the reluctant seller that you are. Flinch at proposals. Flinching is great in negotiations. It's also a big reason why we want to do negotiations in person rather than over the phone when we can. But flinching is one of those things, you should not see it as being beneath you. People are often just floating proposals out there, not really actually expecting you to go along with it. So when you flinch at a proposal, you're quickly shutting down these proposals. And for sure, when people make offers, they are watching for your reactions. Just as though when you make an offer, you're watching for their reaction. And if you play it cool, they might be thinking, "Great, he doesn't mind. Let's tack on more charges, or let's see if we can ask him to throw in new tires with that used car." More and more psychologists are demonstrating through studies and papers how much more influential our visual sense is over all of our other senses. So flinching at proposals is a nice way to bypass the logical part of the brain and strike right to the visceral subconscious. Always ask for more than you expect to get. Reason number one, well, you might actually get it. Secondly, you have now just set yourself up to appear more reasonable throughout negotiations because you've allowed yourself to make bigger concessions later on. And lastly, you have implanted a sense of premium surrounding your product, service, or yourself if you're negotiating a starting wage, let's say. Now, the next obvious question is, if I'm asking for more than I expect to get, how much more? This is what is called bracketing. That is, we take their offer in relation to our desired price and ask for the same amount in the opposite direction. Sounds confusing, but it's very simple. All we're effectively doing is placing our desired price right in the middle of the negotiation range. And we do that because although it's not always the case that you'll end up in the middle, it's a pretty safe assumption. So let's go back to our boat. Let's say he offered us $38,000 and we want to sell it for $44,000. So he's $6,000 short of what we want. We would then ask for $6,000 above our desired price, so $50,000. And then later on we can bracket down from there. So if he comes up, for example, $2,000, we can bracket down to $48,000. As long as it doesn't become too obvious what we're up to. Never offer to split the difference. Although we have cleverly placed our desired price in the middle of the negotiation range, we should never offer to split the difference. Rather, what we are trying to do is provoke the other side to propose it first. If, let's say, you're purchasing a used car and you've stalled in the negotiations, but you're only $4,000 apart, you would be happy with splitting the difference. But if you can get them to offer it, guess what? They've just conceded $2,000 and you've given absolutely nothing up. So how can we provoke it? Playing dumb is smart in this situation, and we can focus on how small that gap seems to be in the negotiation range. So we could say something like, well, it's such a shame we did all this negotiating and we're only $4,000 apart. It was worth a shot though. Now, if they offer to split it, we can just appeal to a higher authority, meaning pretend as though we have to answer to somebody. So you could say, well, if I'm hearing you right, you're willing to come down $2,000 on your price? Well, that's great. I'm going to have to talk it over with my uncle and I'll get back to you tomorrow. Now, when you come back to the negotiations tomorrow, you've just narrowed the negotiation range down substantially. Splitting the difference is actually lazy in negotiating, but it seems so fair in our culture, so we might as well use that in our favor. So some parting thoughts are, number one, always be prepared to walk away. There's never a time you should go into a negotiation saying, I'm going to try hard to get the best price, but I gotta have this. That's when you're going to lose a lot of money. You always have to go in with the mindset saying, if I can't get a great deal or at least my desired price, I have to walk away. And secondly, I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed this book. I've read it a couple times now. I feel like negotiating is one of those areas where you can save quite a substantial amount of money by just knowing minimal amount of stuff. So I highly recommend going out and getting the book. And thanks for watching. And please let me know in the comments any books that you think I should review in the future. Thanks.